It's Friday, May 20th, 2016. This is Next Level. I'm Alec.
I'm Kenny.
And I'm Miles McAllis.
And today on the show, we are joined by Scott Reschke, the CEO of Strength in Numbers Studios, an indie developer currently based in Michigan. Strength in Numbers is reached out to us to talk about their upcoming game, Tuebor. Tuebor is a unique competitive multiplayer game that has an interesting cast of characters that compete in different game modes that span numerous genres of both PvE and PvP. And remember, you can listen to us live at home on our website, NLGO.net, as well as you can join us live on Twitch to chat with us there. And if you have any questions for us or for Scott, feel free to throw them in there. We'll be able to see if we can get those in. All right. I want to thank you, Scott, for joining us today on the show. So how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day over here in Lansing.
It's more lucky than what we've had recently around here. We've had rain and almost snow a couple nights, so yay, Wisconsin. All right. So we're going to try to jump in these questions right away. We're kind of eager to pick your brain. So you ready for some questions?
Have at it. I'm ready. Give me what you got.
All right. So Tuebor is the first game from you guys at Strength in Numbers. But many of your members are from other groups or have done other projects in the past. What was some of your guys' teammates' other projects that you guys have worked on, and what brought you guys all together just recently when you guys started working on Tuebor?
Well, so some of our guys had worked in AAA for quite a few years. Most notable are character art lead. Kevin Manning was from Bethesda. He was a character art team lead for, I believe, 4 years. He did Fallout 3, New Vegas, that little title there you may have heard of. And his credits are a mile long, and he's just been fantastic to work with. We've had Josh Powers. He's our environment and props team guy, and he's been working on, I think he'd worked on, if I'm not mistaken, some of the Halo titles, and he'd worked on Dust 514. I'd have to actually review all those just to see everything that's been in there, but so we've got 2 or 3 guys that have just worked on a lot of AAA stuff and had, we just got very lucky in talking with them, and they were interested in what we were doing, and, we worked it out, and they've really helped us step up the production quality of what we're working on versus what we started with. The rest of the team, we've got a couple of guys, I know one of our guys, Joe, who one of our Skullball levels is named after because he made it. He came from, he made Never-Ending Nightmares, which was an indie game, and he's worked on a couple others as well. We've got a couple of guys that have come from Stardock, which is also a Michigan-based company, and they like Galactic Civilizations 3. Ray, our producers from there. Dan, one of our new animators, that actually just came from Stardock, and they were more late-term hires, like closer to November, December for some of them, and whereas the rest of us, a lot of people I heard straight out of CCS, which is in Detroit, College for Creative Studies.
Yeah.
And they were modelers and animators, really, really great school over there, because the quality of the people that I was able to hire is just fantastic. Zach and Nick and Dylan and Matt and Joe, and I'm giving a shout out to pretty much everybody, but what I wanted to do, a lot of kind of the basis behind the company, Strength in Numbers, is that I wanted to keep it here in Michigan because we have a lot of the problem of the great brain drain and the talent drain where people get their education and they just leave. And so one of my kind of lines in the sand was, when I was trying to raise the money, everybody said, go out west, go out west, go out west, go to Chicago, go to LA, go to San Francisco, wherever. And I said, nope, we're going to do this. We're going to make a change for the better. We're going to employ people here. We're going to keep the jobs here. We're going to make this happen here. And like I mentioned a minute or two ago, my background was on a cyber cafe in East Lansing for 10 years, or a little less than 10 years. And we had come through the doors, I don't know, it was, I think, around 600,000 hours of game time that was played by my customers.
Yeah.
And
what's the name of that place? The Frag Center?
It was, the Frag Center. It stood for Fast Repair and Gaming Center. And so, we had 60 boxes set up. At one point, we were the 3rd largest cyber cafe in the whole U.S. And using the info I got from there, it basically was a blueprint for a game of, like, what do the people really like to play? If they got burnt out on that, what did they then play next? And, tear it down. And so when I first made this game, on paper, it's I spent years and years writing down, wouldn't this be neat, or wouldn't this work well together? And over the years, it kind of shifted from what I thought it was going to be into what it is. And I'm very happy with what it is now, as we're getting now closer to beta and seeing all the parts finally coming together and everything working well together.
Yeah.
So the whole premise behind the game is it's supposed to be cross-genre, multiplayer, cooperative, or PvP stuff. It blends things from MMORPGs. It has some elements of like FPS, not a lot, but we've got this really cool targeting system now. You hold down control, swings out so you can target easier. We've got a little bit of RTS where you can control some squads on some of our PvP maps to help take positions or reinforce positions. So it's not just... I wanted to do a little bit more than just Arathi Basin. In
Which I remember those
Warcraft.
days.
Yeah, but I really love the concept of that instanced, kind of really cool, frenetic battlefield feel. And you know, I played League for forever, named Poppy and Singed. Love those two so much.
I played League a little bit and lost a whole lot.
Yeah.
I've experienced that
That's my
game.
experience with League.
But I wanted to combine like the pace of MOBAs, or that frenetic feel, that excitement and action with MOBAs, but more with the control structure of MMOs. And I didn't, making an MMO is $50, $100, $200 million. And I knew I was never going to be able to raise that for this first studio, or the first game for the studio. And so we scoped it down to what can we get away with to get people hooked, to get people that really like playing with, that like the characters, that like the story. And so that's kind of the influence behind both the company and the game was, what are people having fun with? What would get them excited to play? And, what would make them really feel like they were having a good time and that they were living through one of their favorite graphic novels. So our heroes are all we're trying to make them look and feel iconic, but also in a way that anyone can feel connected to. So it isn't just one middle-aged, rugged white man with stubble. It is.
That was something that I was talking about before when I was on the phone with you. We were talking about how our producer here, Miles, saw Grotchok, and he was just immediately...
What is that? This bird! Why?
So, I would write things down very late at night, yeah. The game is set in the future. The year is 7,235, so it's been years and years and years of warfare, right? And I figured, well, there'll be mutations, and there'll be, biomechanical attachments, and then, I don't know if you guys ever played D&D, but if you remember,
a little bit.
the Illithids had psionic abilities, right?
Right.
And I thought, well, we're going to do an homage to good old Gary Gygax here, and because I wanted to have it stay pretty strictly sci-fi, but we needed something more than just guns. And so that's where the psionics came in, is, okay, we can get away with this, it's sci-fi magic. And so we've got the psionics who can manipulate matter, you've got the biomechs who all have, different limbs replaced with weapons or upgrades, the mutates, which is our slang in the game for the mutants, because, it's like, you're going to have your own dialogue, and we wanted to make that feel more real, so you wouldn't just call everybody proper nouns, you'd use slang and that kind of stuff. So the mutate is kind of the way of insulting people that have like extra limbs or something wrong with their bodies and stuff like that. And we figured, well, there's like multiple kinds of mutations. The forced kind, the engineered kind, and the accidental kind. And so the Grotchok, which was originally called Ant B Bird, because he's giant bird head, because, birds have massive beaks, right? They carry stuff. And then ants have massive bodies. They can lift 1,000 times their weight. And then, bees, just a giant bee stinger. So, how awesome is that? And so we called him Ant B Bird, and everybody made fun of my naming scheme. So I eventually named him after one of our developers.
Right. And I'm actually excited to see that because with a lot of, other MOBAs with these cast of characters, they still adhere to, relatively human-looking features. I know in League, like, Elise is the one that kind of strays away from that, being the Drider. But it is nice to see, an actual monstrosity in a game like this. I'm very excited about that.
Well, that was... So when I owned it, I feel like I was kind of cheating the game design, because when I owned the Cyber Cafe, I had thousands of teenagers and 20-somethings coming through, and they're not typically very quiet about sharing their opinion of what they think of the game.
No.
And so I just sat and listened, and I just talked to him all day, every day. What do you like? Why did you like this? Why do you keep playing this game that's 10 years old instead of the shiny new one that just came out 2 days ago? And so what we found is teenagers usually want to feel really tough and really cool and, really BA. And it's just, so we have certain heroes that are intended just to appeal to that audience. And so you've got Meyer. If you, our website's being updated by a web dev team, so we're going to have a bunch more info we're pouring out. So if you're playing this weekend, look at Meyer. He is half nasty fat man and half human centipede. And he's supposed to appeal to that group. And you've got the Grotchok, and then we've got a few others that are floating around in there that have kind of these really cool monstrous deformity kind of stuff. And then you've got others that kind of are now bridging the gap to the older age range, because we found that people typically in their late 20s and above were the WoW paladins, were the night elves and bear bears that they want to feel like they're protecting everybody. And so then we have the pure faction, which are the humans that have no psionic abilities and no extra limbs and no mutations and no biomech parts to them. And so these are pure humans, a little bit of a play, tongue-in-cheek with the Michigan propaganda. I don't know if you guys ever hear commercials for pure Michigan. Well, so these are pure humans, and they're trying to save the world from deformity, right? Yeah. And so these people appeal more to those Care Bear kind of players. And then you've got the group more of the, late teens to mid-20s who want to still feel cool and want to feel like they're more of that Superman, Batman kind of feeling, and that's where we've got the rest of the characters.
And it's something big that we've noticed definitely from your guys' studios is along with what the question I asked before, is that the variety is huge. You have a very different type of team, a very team from old veterans that have been in it, and new guys, and people who've played on previous or made previous games, or who just played previous games. And that's something that's really nice seeing, is that there's so many different skills and so many different abilities you guys have. And I mean, it definitely shows, along with the variety of different characters you guys have, the world you guys created here. So it's something interesting to see with all the different teams you guys have, or the different people.
Oh yeah, and they're great people. Everyone on this team is really fantastic. I've gotten very lucky. The people here really want to make something great happen, and it just shows through the quality of the work that they've done. Coming in to work, I still enjoy showing up in the morning, and I still enjoy playing with them and testing with them, and so I hope that doesn't ever change, because these are really great people that I'm working with. And to finish the sentiment, we wanted to make sure the diversity of the hero was more than just middle-aged white guy with stubble, very rugged, and no offense to Uncharted 4. It's a really cool game. Obviously, everybody's playing Uncharted 4, but I always felt that we need to include more people, because the world is bigger than just us. And so, we've got Caucasian males, but we also, and females, but we've also got, black skin, and we've got Asian, and we have some Hispanics, and we've got a really diverse group of people that we want anyone playing to actually look and go, man, I really identify with this hero, the way he looks, the way his voiceovers are, what his backstory is. I just want to play this one as much as possible.
We even cover it even covers the entirely robotic man area too, which I love Uncle.
There you go. Well, he's actually based on my uncle.
Oh, there you go.
Half the characters are based on people that I either played video games with or know somehow in real life. And so one of them is even an homage to myself, because I'm allowed to have a little bit of an ego. So that's where they came from. Real people. They say what writers write what they know. So I guess a game developer developed what he knew.
Yeah, that definitely works out.
Yeah, that definitely works out. So with Tuebor still being an alpha, does Strength in Numbers have any idea for future projects, or any big ideas for Tuebor after its full release?
I've got loads of ideas. It's going to really depend on the success of this. The game that I had planned is way bigger than what's going to be released. We had an entire raid mode where it was just groups of 15 people, a little bit like, what was it in Wrath of the Lich King? It was the...
I'm their local WoW.
We had it was right after Oldawar, right before Icecrown.
Trial of the Crusader.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And so, although a lot of people is much maligned of, there's no giant dungeon, it was still super challenging. Had a lot of really cool achievements. And for us looking at that, I was like, we could do something similar. We don't need a big dungeon crawler. That's not what this game is. And so what we had was we designed an 8-boss raid where each was a different zone, but it was more like Trial of the Crusader of a smaller area to fight a boss instead of, let's spend 2 hours fighting trash. Hey,
Which I think, is that
for 3 weeks.
the core breach idea that you guys had that was on your website on that?
No, that one actually, Core Breach is how we're branding our PvP. So each side, that's more like the Blood Gulch for Halo or the Iraqi Basin, but each side has a base, and you're going to fight to destroy the other player's base over the course of a large map, or large or small. That one we were calling Spoils of War, so we're branding our raid mode, and because we have a progression in the game, and the progression is similar to how MMORPGs do it, to where by playing, you'll gain salvage, because in the future there's a giant floating satellite that teleports everything up, and so the guy who's floating in it, he owns a company called Lightspeed Drive Yards, and his name is Gren Bias, and he teleports anything up, everything that dies or falls apart, and he gives you credit, and in that credit is where you buy upgrades, and so it's kind of like the MMORPG progression of, I need to get this extra 2, 3, 4, 5% stronger, better. So that way, that's how we could control having the end raid boss being much stronger than the beginning raid boss. And that's how you can tier, the battlegrounds. And that's how you can tier Last Stand mode, which we're calling Death and Glory, where it's a group of 6 people that have to defend facilities against waves of harder and harder and harder NPCs. So progression is done through gear. Just by playing, just by doing anything in the game whatsoever.
So, are you going to have a separation with your PvE and PvP stuff? Like, if I, sunk 400 hours, like, after the immediate release and killed Big Man the Destroyer, and got the best gear in the game immediately, and then decided to go PvP, am I going to, be a lot stronger than other people, or is it not going to impact the player versus player environment as well?
It will. We already have plans in place for matchmaking and ranking system to control making sure that godlike people with godlike gear are not just squashing noobs.
We don't want another Goldshire situation where just to get new guys.
No. The challenge for we will be controlling it through the release of tiered gear. So the first 2 tiers we have available, which you can get a glimpse at in the. So if you go to the shop when you open up the client, you'll be able to actually see what's in the shop. We're still reworking some of the UI to make it a little bit easier and friendlier to navigate and understand what you're purchasing. But you can hover over and see that the stat modifiers are still like 0.25%. Now, you can put in like 6 or 8 of them and increase the stats, but we want to have the first, second, third, fourth. We want to actually have the tier of the gear increase meaningfully over time. And so, for the first several months, the stat modifiers aren't going to determine how much better you are than somebody else instead of just how much better you actually are than somebody else.
Yeah, I definitely like that. In Warcraft, that was one of the things, if you wanted to do PvP and PvE, you had to spend so much extra time to get all this extra gear just to be on the same level as other people. So I like that idea that you have for balancing where, you're not going to have, just because you killed Big Man the Destroyer doesn't mean you're going to, blow everybody up that you see. I like that,
exactly.
The way you're doing that.
And if when you click on the Heroes tab, you'll see nestled away in the lower right-hand corner, Train and Equip. You'll be able to see there are 4 categories for equipment and training, and each one has a lot of slots. And one of the things, if you notice, I love the idea of getting huge benefits, but at a cost. I love making players have to make a choice. And so in some of the gear that you can buy and the upgrades and the equipment, it has really significant stat increases, but then it gives you a really significant stat decrease in something else. So if you want to have massive amount of shield, that's great. You're going to do less damage. If you want to have massive amount of damage, well, welcome to being a glass cannon. So unlike other games where it's always just straight up stat increases, I want people to have to make a choice of, am I going to min-max this way, or I'm going to be a generalist, or adjust to situations. And on top of that, we're going to have 30 heroes at launch, with 30 heroes, each having 4 different groups of stats, each one of those having, I believe, 8 slots to upgrade. You're talking about having, I don't want to say grinding gear out, but you're talking about having a lot of options to play with a lot of different things.
So with you saying that the higher tier items are going to be basically pay off one thing for another, are you going to still keep a way for players to have like an all-around type play style, to where they could basically where like an item were to not trade off, where you could just have an item that, I'm trying to think of how I'm trying to
middle of the road.
middle of the road.
Are you talking about like room pages at League where you can like swap between the gear sets?
Yeah.
We talked about that. We would like to implement it. I'm not going to make any promises. It just all depends on, we want to test and see how it goes to see if it's even an issue. If a casual player is going to try and purchase all of the gear to min-max and then have a second set of general gear. So we want to see how that actually plays out before we implement it. Because back-end work, when you change that kind of infrastructure, one of my coders I know would probably come at me with a knife. So.
Yeah. So, there's one big thing that we've noticed from the game is that it gives such these different ranges, and I mean, even seeing the various different game modes you guys have planned, like Death and Glory, Spoils of War, Core Breach, Supremacy, and the one that I played a lot of, which was Skullball. It definitely allows for different players to jump in. So, like, Skullball, for instance, is something that allows players to easily jump in really quickly and play, which is like your guys' sports version where there's a ball in the center, get it into your opponent's goal, no matter how violent you are.
It's super fun now. We just played it for the last hour, and a lot of the tweaks we put in it made it ridiculously fun.
Yeah, and with you guys having your Skullball competition coming up this weekend, do you guys think that any competitions or challenges would be a common occurrence, or...
I'd love to run them. Yeah, I'd love to run them every weekend if I could. We're gonna have open testing every weekend to launch. We're intending to have. We've got a capture the flag coming out of the pipeline that we want to test out, hopefully in the next week or two. And then we want to keep iterating on our Death and Glory, our last stand mode. Competitions, I love them, and we have bandwidth right now to offer prizes to get. I ended up raising money from an investment group, and for investors, yes, they do want to see something really wonderful flourish, but at the end of the day, it's also, can this be a sustainable company? And so one of the things that I pitched to them was we need to make sure we have a good marketing plan to where we can reach out to gamers and make sure that they feel like we are not just trying to do a cash grab. So, I want you to feel like if you have paid for anything in this game that you've gotten your value at it. If you are a huge esports person and you want to jump into tournaments, I want to have tournaments for you. I'd love to see us at PAX having a giant tournament. I'd love to see us part of ESPN, sports network someday. Now, I tend to dream really big. Who knows if that's going to happen? But you always hear what's the old axiom? Reach for the stars, or
shoot for the moon. You at least end up in the stars.
Exactly. If your goal, I've got a degree in business administration, and they hammer into you, if you set low goals, then all you're going to achieve are low things. And so for us, we having such a aggressive game build that we're trying to accomplish a lot of things in a year and a half of development with a team of 25 to 30, that's super aggressive for an indie studio. And I've gotten very lucky from having the people that I have because they have made it possible. And so you asked earlier, what are our plans in the future? I want to put back in the raid modes because one of the things I found at the Cyber Cafe was people either raid or arena. And when they get burnt out of those, either one or the other, they do the other thing. And then when they drop down, they would play an RTS or they'd play an FPS. And then when they drop down, they do like Mario Party, or if you're at all old enough to remember Warcraft 3's Uther Party. So I have game design for all of these modes, and what we're seeing is since this game is not taking itself overly seriously, we can put in these goofy, because Skullball was never part of the game design. That
Yeah.
came around because the gamers were, the developers were just loving Rocket League.
Yeah.
And one day I'm
that's
standing, yeah, and I was standing around one day and I was thinking, we had an esports module. We hadn't really fleshed it out yet. We were going to have it kind of be like a combination of rugby, soccer, and football meets American Gladiator, where you're shooting stuff and you got obstacles. And we just never fleshed it out, so we put it on the shelf. And then about 3-4 months ago, I don't remember quite how long, I said to the team, I was like, hey guys, here's a 2-week challenge for you. You can only use assets we've already made. I don't want you spending any time making anything new. And you can't work on it on the clock. It can only be after hours, because we still have deadlines we have to meet to make sure the game gets out.
Right. Right.
And I said, you do that in the next 2 weeks. I think it'll end up being 3. And you guys will all get, rewarded for, beer weekend, which I haven't given to them yet because I need them to keep working. and extra, a bonus, to salary kind of stuff. And man, they just knocked it out of the park. All 3 of our Skullball levels were designed and built by, I'm sure they also would call themselves game designers, but not by the game design team, by the technical artists who do rigging and animation, rigging and weight mapping, and by the environment and props modelers, and by the character artists, and by our engineering team help put it all together. And so this was an accidental happiness that we've just been having a blast playing, and just added a huge value. And we're like, why can't we do more of that? Why do we have to be this super serious, everything is a death match, everything is this, everything is this? Well, why not, since Tuebor itself is supposed to be this blend across genres, well, let's just own that.
Yeah.
Every mode we can think of that anyone would have a good time, as long as it actually feels like it fits. And so that's kind of our goal, is have gamers feel like they're having a good time, just having a lot of fun.
So to immediately ruin that and to turn you against all of your employees, you guys, I'm assuming you guys play Skullball at your place?
We do, yep.
All right. So who do you think is the best at your team? Do you guys have a best?
That's probably Paul, our lead Unreal Engine coder, or man, I tell you, Joe's pretty good. Kevin and Gracia is pretty good. I'm just absolutely wretched. Although I know how the characters work better, I'm not as good at it because they've played the heck out of Rocket League, so they're used to juggling it and aiming it. And well, one of the the funny thing about that is one of the things that I didn't want was just another ball. I didn't want us to be like, you knocked off them. So it's a giant skull, and it's irregular shape, and the collision, it conforms to the irregular shape. So the 3 giant metal horns it has sticking up off the top of its head will cause it to bounce super irregularly. And that has added this wicked level of excitement to where you think it's going in, a horn will catch onto something that is sticking up off the ground, and all of a sudden it spirals in a different direction. And so it's a ton of fun.
So how many fights have been started because of it there?
No, not so far. Well,
So far.
I do like the casinos do. I pump in higher levels of oxygen to keep them all in that level.
All right. So, with Sin being such a small team, have you guys run into any problems developing a game with such large ambitions?
Yeah, it was really hard finding staff locally, and so we had to import a couple people from different states. We had to distribute it for a while. It took us a while to develop our development pipeline, longer than I would have wanted, because we really didn't even get actual work done. Now, the engineers did. They were laying infrastructure since day one, but like the rest of the teams are still trying to become cohesive, really gel together, and we didn't get actual production work accomplished until probably 3 to 4 months in. And so when you have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of money, that is a huge problem. Luckily, these guys just, kicked it up a notch, and bam, we all of a sudden went from having not enough to having more than we thought we were going to. Short of that, it goes back to ambitions. We know what we are, we know what we're not. I'd love to have a THQ 40K, or I'm sorry, a Dawn of War 3 trailer, but that's just not going to happen. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for pre-rendered trailer.
Yeah, with a professional animating team and everybody that has millions and millions of dollars to throw at it. Yeah,
I mean that's
exactly.
That's what I'm excited about, the fact that we get to interview you guys. Like Goat Simulator was just a joke, and because of the gaming community, it got really big and blew up. And so you've already turned me on to this. I'm already like super excited. I got to play the game a little bit, but just talking to you so far has just I'm just like, oh man, they're putting in stuff from Gary Gygax. Like I grew up on AD&D, and then like
he's from this area too.
Yeah,
He's
like
from
Geneva.
Yep.
And just old school Warcraft, and just so much stuff is just like the more and more I'm hearing about it, the more exciting I'm getting. So I just wanted to nerd out in that little second.
Well, no, it's great. It's what we love. I mean, I'm a giant sci-fi nerd. I grew up on Star Trek. I always wanted to be Captain Kirk, and who didn't love Picard, and I just Aliens, Blade Runner, Fifth Element, you name it. I love that, and so when you get into cyberpunk genre, I just love so very much because it's so interesting to look at. To me, I just can't look at another dragon and go, oh, that's exciting.
And I have a feeling too, because every once in a while there's a new big thing that shows up, like in the last 10 or so years has been vampires and zombies type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that cyberpunk's going to start popping up more often with 4 or 5 big things going on with cyberpunk coming up in the next couple of years. So you guys got in the best time for that.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
It's definitely something that we would want to. I'm really excited to see where this game is going to go. So you said you guys wanted to make the game like a fast-paced MMO-styled fighter.
Yeah.
So what made you guys want to go with that particular style of gameplay? Was there any particular inspiration besides for the Outtrek Valley stuff and those types of things, or did?
It was mainly, it was because when I looked over the years at the Cyber Cafe, it was like, what really drew people in the most? What were the games that kept people playing the longest? What were the games that people seemed to have the most fun in?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a blend of the gameplay style plus learning curve plus controls. And so right now with ours, the control scheme is WASD to move, 1, 2, 3, 4 are your special abilities, left and right mouse are your melee and ranged attack. If you don't know those controls, you've never actually played a video game on the PC before in your life. And so we wanted that ease of access, that ease just to anybody could log in without running a tutorial, without reading a single thing, understand, oh, these are the buttons and this is what I do. We've just been playing around with a new control scheme where holding down shift lets you sprint, holding down control swings you into a first-person shooter mode, or more of a third-person shooter mode, and then hitting the Alt key will give you a mouse unlock, so that way you can type in the chat or hover over your abilities to see what they actually say they do until we can implement a better tutorial or training system.
Yeah, which is something I actually had issues with because, like I said, I was playing one of the characters I played, Arnold, was a huge character. He's a pretty big guy, and I was having a lot of issues aiming.
We adjusted that today. We put the camera back on him so that way you could see past him.
Okay, because I was having issues with aiming with him, but, after I figured out the control thing, it was a little bit easier, but...
You gotta learn to play first,
Yeah.
It's still good things. It's not consistently.
Anytime we get feedback, we're just like, how can we make this better? Because we don't, I've got no ego to bruise here. It's we want you to have fun, because if people are having fun, they're going to keep playing, and then I get to keep my company, and we get to keep making more games. I know after launch, if it's successful, we're going to keep making more game modes and upkeeping the IP and getting more heroes and more maps and more levels. But I also want to spin off a couple of teams, because I know a lot of my team, there's a lot of guys that love doing like the 2D side-scrollers or platformers or puzzlers kind of stuff. And so I know they're chomping at the bit to be able to pull off the main IP to spin up some other titles. And I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to be able to see that, because I'm a sucker personally for 2D side scrollers. So I'd love to see
Yeah, you
that.
fit right in with the team.
So, of the 4 major factions appearing in Tuebor, is there any faction that you like or prefer? Like, in your eyes, is there a good or bad faction, or are they all in the gray area?
They're all, it's kind of like superheroes. In some of the comics, Lex Luthor is actually, an okay guy who's just looking out for humans. Batman is super gray area. You can't tell me that he hasn't beaten people to death. Oh no, he won't use a gun. Well, great. Well, you just hit that dude with a 2x4. So, and Superman, depending on how you're looking at him, usually, if truth, justice, American way. All right, now how does that read to a Russian? I don't want the American way. So it's very, point of view. And so for me, I have heroes that I love this story. Now they're all the heroes that I come up with, and I had some writers help me flesh out the story to make them better than what I had originally had. And so there are some that I really love the story behind. There are others that we included because they seemed interesting and they turned out to be really good ideas and concepts. Probably my favorite is Illyria. She's the half spider. I love the animation. I spent a lot of time working on her backstory with the writer, and the writer did a great job of coming up with these cool journal entries, because her backstory, and we don't have it on the website yet, but we will, is that she's actually several hundred years old. She has a genetic mutation that makes her age slower. It's kind of like a wonky Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
But hers is very, very, very slow. And so when she's been left for dead, she just heals over, and her body ages at a rate of 1 year of appearance per 8 years of life.
Yeah.
And so when she was young, when she's actually 30 years old, she only looked like a toddler or, like a 4 or 5 year old. And so she was brought up in this mafia-style family, and so she learned to be an assassin, and which, you would never expect a 5-year-old to, stick a knife in your back. And so she's lived for hundreds of years, and she is super, super brilliant, genius level IQ, but she's also somewhat psychotic. So she's got this lovely...
There's the trade-offs.
Yeah, and so just everything about the story I just really like. And so she's one of my favorites. So otherwise, Mid, he's got all biomech limbs, arms, and legs. His character's coming along. We struggled a little bit with trying to implement it the way I would ideally like, but he's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
There's things about every character that I really like, but I'd say Mid and Illyria are my favorite too.
Yeah, Illyria was definitely one of the more interesting characters that I didn't personally play her, but I saw when I was watching the gameplay. I saw her fighting against the anti-bird, and I immediately I just had, oh man, Driders are just one of the coolest, most dangerous things. And now she's mechanized too, the body.
Yep, the lower half is entirely a mechanical. So she had her lower half cut in half or smashed in half by one of the characters named Kern, and she just completely holds it against him. And so instead of having new legs regrown, which you could do, she decided she wanted to be a little bit more scary. Now in the comic that we have her, she has a pair of robot biped legs that she will strap on from time to time, but when she's fighting, she has the spider legs because the spider butt actually is we call it the rift. It's kind of like when Frodo puts on the ring, it's kind of like half in between, half out. Mm-hmm. And the rift was how I wanted to do invisibility or stealth, because I got very sick of games where when you're invisible, nobody can see you other than your own team. And it just, to me, I was like, that's just such a lame feature. Let's do the rift where anyone in the rift can see each other. So if you have 2 people that are invisible to everyone else, if you're even on opposite teams, you can still see the other people in the rift.
That's cool.
However, it only allows you mobility. It drains your resources. The longer you're in there, the faster it drains it. And as soon as you do anything other than move, it pops you immediately back out. So it's positioning, it's movement, it's a getaway. It's a stealth mechanic that's more than just who was the rat in League of Legends that can
Twitch,
just run around and just kill everybody.
Yeah.
That was
From an
Yeah, that was my
esports
answer
perspective,
to
that's pretty cool because it's like whenever you're doing like pick and ban for stuff, you always have to be aware of what's on the other team. So it's one of those situations. If you want to try and get away with a Rift character, then you ban out their Rift character, or oh man, you're out of bans. They picked one up, so you got to pick one up. Like that's cool. There's some reactive gameplay right there.
Yep, it's all about making choices. At least that's how I see gameplay. Making players make a choice.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm a big esports person, so I mean, you just keep talking, man. You just.
I do want to point out, I was notified that one of our guys was actually from SCAD. You guys familiar with Savannah College of Art and Design?
What is the company?
Not company. It's a school down in Georgia. SCAD, SCAD.
I'm not familiar with that myself.
No, I'm not either.
A lot of good artists coming out of there. Well, he was on the team that made a 2D side scroller called Never Ending Nightmares, and he says you should check that out if you like those.
That's Never-Ending Nightmares. That's
that.
an indie game that I've seen actually. I watched Markiplier play it actually.
Yeah, we were talking about that a couple weeks ago, I believe.
And so he's on he developed that.
Yep, he was one of the developers on the staff, and he is the developer that you'll get to see this weekend. He made Factory JO3, and that's after his name, which is Joe, because who wouldn't put Leet Speak in?
Oh, it's this game. I remember this game.
That game, that actually kept me up at night.
This was the one that was actually another guy we usually have with us, Jeremy. I don't know why, but everyone here always recommends I play horror games, and I am the least person that you should be offering horror games to. Yeah, that game is spooky.
That looks good. I've never heard of it before today. I don't really peruse through
from the
Steam,
things
though.
I've seen of it. It's very much of a psychological horror game.
I can be down with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got branching paths depending on like what you do and what you. It is a very great game. So that's cool actually. That you've got. It does sound like you have a really really good team. Just from what we've seen and some of the stuff that you said they worked on.
Yeah, not only good developers, but they're really good people. So
Right.
you can't get much luckier than I have with that.
And I also noticed that with how big, like how kind of varied the entire game is, you have all these different play styles. The fact that you have all these developers that have done different genres and not only done just one type of genre, I feel like works in your favor a lot as well.
It has, because it's brought a lot of different perspectives. The funny thing is most of the development team weren't really into third-person games or like MMORPGs. Now, we do have a few that are, but it was interesting trying to get the perspective from gamers that weren't actually part of my target market. Because it's like, well, do you get this? How would you like this? Does this work for you? And they're like, well, for me, I'd change it this way or that way. So it's definitely lent us to make a product that would be more easily appealing to more people.
yeah, and to go into that as well, the dreaded question that it always is kind of weird, but so when you guys do get to the point of launching, when you guys reach that point, how do you guys want to launch the game? Do you just want to have it a digital release, or did you guys maybe think about a physical release, and is it going to be buy to play or free to play? Do you guys have any ideas on that, or is you guys just really developing for now?
I'm a businessman, so I just I plan that one out years in advance, and looking at the monetization strategies that's across the industry right now. Our biggest struggle, I feel, isn't with our game, but with nobody knows about our company. Nobody's heard about us. Nobody knows to buy anything from us. And looking at how well a lot of different games have done, such as League of Legends or anything from wargaming.net, you want to allow, if the game is good enough, people will pay for it. They will want to pay for it. So I don't want to gate the game behind a price point necessarily. At the end of the day, we still have to make money in order to survive, or else, goodbye studio.
Yeah.
So we're going to have it's going to be multiple tiered. There will be a free-to-play element, meaning you can just get in and start playing, but it's going to have a bunch of stuff gated. Gated in a similar way to how League does it. So that salvage I was telling you about, we'll have a couple of heroes free every week for a rotation. So if you want to keep playing, you can grind out the salvage and unlock more heroes. There will be no pay-to-win aspect of this. It is, we'll have multiple tiers of a medium price point, a low price point, and a high price point. So if you want to buy 10 of our heroes, it'll be a much lower price. If you want to buy, 20 of our heroes, it's going to be a medium price. If you want to buy all the heroes, it's going to be the higher price. Are we allowed to state what the intended price points are supposed to be, or I don't know if that like
I think we'll leave it at that right there. Just
yeah. So it's not going to be what AAA prices are, because I realize the expectations of if you're going to charge X amount, you're expecting Uncharted, and so we're realistically going to keep it in the indie price realm, not super low because we've got to stay in business, and I want to make sure all my developers can pay for their rent, their lunch, their car, and their health insurance, and all that kind of stuff. So there will be a free-to-play aspect, just so we can get a bunch of people playing. But then there will be some vanity items, some reskins. We've got some really cool stuff with like swapping hairs and backpacks and stuff like that. That actually some of our developers had come up with. They're like, wouldn't this be really cool if we had this on this character? And I was like, yeah, we just don't have time, and we don't have anything else to swap. And they're like, no, just swap backpacks. So it'd be really sweet, or swap hair. And so if you go into the My Heroes thing tonight, or whenever you get in, there's a character named Kate, or Catherine. And she's a cyberpunk female, and she's got these wonderful cyberpunk dreads that bounce everywhere. And we've now got it where you can swap that and put it onto Maya, the big fat mutant calf centipede guy. And so it's stuff like that will be very, very low price point that actually can help keep an indie studio like ours operating for a long time.
Okay, so you guys do plan possibly to have like more of a every once in a while, if you wanted to, or if you especially enjoy this hero, like a microtransaction thing you can do to get skins or different types of
it's pretty common in the MOBA thing too.
So with that being said, do you guys have any plans to make a single-player campaign mode or for the game, or do you guys just want to keep it strictly multiplayer?
No, I would love to. The challenge for single-player came down to how much it would cost to make one. For the scope of what we were trying to do, looking at it, because like if you take a look at, I read Game of Sutra all of the time, and I had made a guess about the cost for each zone in World of Warcraft, and I wasn't too far off. I guessed about $6 million. And what Blizzard has announced was the cost was roughly $3 to $5 million per zone. So, if we're just looking at a single-player campaign of even that size, now I know you can go smaller, you can go bigger, whatever. But for what we were trying to accomplish, we were looking at it like, what game modes can we make at launch that will get the most amount of people playing, so that way we can then afford to make a single player. Because I actually, was thinking about that the other day, someone had asked me that, and I was like, I would love to have a single player campaign for every one of the characters. Now, I don't know if that'll ever come true, but I guess it depends on how you scope what the campaign actually is. You could have one character, you could do the campaign for each character and have it have slightly different outcomes or endings or that kind of stuff. But so yes, I'd love to have a single player campaign. I'd love to have like an offline thing, but that provides its own challenges and whatnot.
All right, so we're starting to run out of time here, so we have a couple more questions. So something that's kind of our catch-all to allow you to, get any of your things out. Is there any announcements or any information you want to give out to us, or anything you want people to hear?
Yeah, you've done a fantastic job of promoting Skullball. It's the esports thing we're doing this weekend. There is anybody that signs up and just plays it. It's not a tournament. There's not any winners or losers. We just want to test our internal systems for both playability and how the characters function, and anything causing a crash, and is anything just not working. And so we're going to have random drawing, just give away. Anybody that plays 10 complete games over the weekend, certain hours, you go to our website, you'll be able to see it on the Skullball contest tab. And then it's got some pretty cool stuff. I'll leave it to you guys if you're allowed to announce what you get. But we're giving away some cool DLC for it.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple prizes for it. It's a couple smaller prizes. You could check out our website for a link to theirs, or it would be at Tuebor, I believe.com, or is it
TueborGame.com.
Yeah, TueborGame.com.
Tuebor.
Yep, and you'll find a link to it on our website. Is there any information about what we're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks coming up with the alpha, or are you guys shooting it by ear for the time being?
Well, we're gonna get to capture the flag out. We're gonna get we've got some team death matches coming out, and we're gonna always be iterating on our death and glory mode.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the next 5 waves, and we've been tweaking the bosses because like every 5 waves, 4 or 5 waves, there's a boss, and we've been tweaking them to make the experience feel a lot cooler and a lot more difficult because we found that originally we made it too easy for people, and so we're gonna be cranking it up to 11.
All right. And then we have one final question, and then we'll head into our outro. Something that you can let you nerd out a little bit here if you want to. Is there anything in the gaming world you're personally excited about, or anything you're really excited about in Tuebor, or anything you want to talk about in particular?
Well, I've been pretty excited all year for Overwatch. I'm pretty excited. I've been watching Paragon a lot. I haven't been able to play as much as my work days are anywhere from, if it's a short day, it's 8 hours. An average day is about 12, and some of the weekends are like 18-hour days. So,
yeah.
There's the new Artemis Die is coming out, or did that come out already?
The free-to-play one did come out already. I don't know if that was the new one, but I know there was a free-to-play one that just came out within the last month. Like
no, I know the other guys at the office have been super geeked over Uncharted. There were rumors of people taking days off for work for it.
Yeah, we actually have I think we have a review coming up for that. So, and the player that we had for us has been super excited about that. So,
all right. Well, Scott, I'd definitely like to thank you for joining us on the show. We're going to go and do our regular outro. If you would just stay on the line with us for a couple of minutes, we're going to talk to you after the show a little bit.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's wonderful having you guys interview us.
I guess thank you. It was awesome.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
If you guys ever have any more announcements that you ever want to come on the show and talk to us about, shoot us another email.
yep, we'll always be around.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. And unfortunately, that is all the time we have this week. We'll be back next week with more gaming discussion and also maybe more information on Tuebor. Be sure to look for updates on our site at nlgo.net. You can also follow us on Twitter at nextlevelnet, like us on Facebook, or email us at nextlevel@nlgo.net. Next Level is produced by WIPZ, the radio station we're in right now, and we'd like to thank them for allowing us to use their station and allow them using our hardware here. You can listen to us every Friday at 4. Even over the summer, we'll have a consistent show, and we'll also plan on having an E3 show coming up. That'll be a 3-hour extravaganza. So we'll definitely be around here at that time. A special thank you to Nick Quas for allowing us to use his music and for our podcast and for different production. You can visit us at our website you can visit his website at nickquas.bandcamp.com. We'd also like to thank the University of Wisconsin Parkside for their support for our show, and also thank Scott for joining us today. And I also want to thank Kenny and Miles for being with us here today, and for Miles for producing. And of course, everyone listening at home and supporting us, as well as those of our Twitch followers or those who will be our YouTube followers, will be uploaded tomorrow. And from all of us at Next Level Net, I'm Alec. So long, and see you guys next week. Bye.